Hey, welcome to the video. Today is the 5th video in a series of videos dealing with how to retrieve your Wi-Fi passwords from your laptop or your PC using Python. In the previous videos, we've dealt with the Linux environment. In this video, we'll do this for Windows, and you will find it is a lot easier in Windows. Check it out.
So let's have a look at how in Windows you can find out the passwords of your Wi-Fi networks. So you go into your command prompt. So you do that by typing cmd in here. Okay, so that opens up a new command prompt, and the instruction is netshw lan show profile. So this shows you the 3 Wi-Fi networks that this laptop has been on. And this is, again, my wife's Windows laptop, so the sound might be a bit weird. I apologize for that. So of these 3 networks, the last one, this one doesn't exist anymore, so I can safely open that and show you the details. So how do I get the details, including the password for this particular network? So the instruction is the same, but you then add the network name to that. So that gives me quite a lot of information, but it actually does not give me the password. Now, for the password, you need an extra instruction. You need key equals clear. Okay. When you run that, you'll find that you get a lot of the same information, but you have key content here at the end, and this will give you the password. Okay, so what we're going to do in Python is we're going to run these instructions through Python using subprocess, and then from the output we're going to extract using regex key content here and then the password. So remember what key content looks like. You've got a bunch of spaces here, then you've got the words key content, then you've got another bunch of spaces, then you've got a colon, then you have a space, and then you've got the password. So we will need to remember that structure when we apply regex in Python. Let's start by importing the libraries we need. So subprocess and regex, which is re. Okay. I'll then create a function to hold my functionality because later on we'll be creating a little Kivy app around this solution. But for now, let's just keep it to the command line. So the commands, I'll store that in a separate variable. So this is the command that will give me a list of all the networks that this laptop has been on. It doesn't give me the passwords yet, just a list of networks. I will store these network names in a list, and then I will loop through that list to pick up the password for each of the networks I've been on, and then I'll create an output that shows you all the networks with all the passwords. So that's the structure. The command is captured in this variable. The next thing to do is then run that command and capture the output. For that, I use subprocess. And from subprocess, I use check output, and I apply that to command because I want to check the output from the command in the line above, the command that I've captured in my command variable. And I need to say that shell is true because this is a shell command. So if I run this command, the output will look like this. Using regex, we're going to find in this output profile, then there will be a bunch of spaces, a colon, another space, and then a number of characters that make up the name of the network, and that I'm going to store in a list. So how do we do that in Python? So I'm going to create a list to capture my output, and I'm going to call that the network names list. So I'm going to apply from regex functionality called find all, which results in a list. Okay, now what am I going to find? Well, I'm going to find a particular string, and we're going to have 2 groups. If regex is new to you, I refer to a previous video where we talked about how to recover passwords from Linux, but where we talked about how to apply regex. And we're going to apply the same logic here. I'm going to just go a little bit more quickly here. We'll have two groups, and the first group, which will capture the word profile, we don't want to have that in our output. The second group we will want to have in our output. So I start with question mark colon to exclude this group from the output. I'm looking for the word profile. That was followed by a number of spaces, so space, and that was a number of them. We then got to a colon, we then had one more space, and then we got to the network name. And the network name could really be any kind of character for any kind of length, so dot star. That's my regex. Well, what am I applying this to? I'm going to apply this to networks from the line above, but I need to decode that into text because networks is actually not text, and we can apply regex only to strings. Okay, so that gives me a list that holds the network names. Now the next step is to loop through that list and capture the passwords for each of the networks. So I'm going to create a results list. And so for each network name in networks name list, I'm going to retrieve the password. So again, I'm going to store my command. Now the command has now changed slightly, as in it's been extended. So remember from when I showed you how to do this in the command line interface, maybe let me show you that again. In the command line interface, the second command to run is this one, which is the same as before, but you can now add the network name, and then you need to add key equals clear, right, to actually show the password. That then gives you this, a bunch of information, and then we will find key content using regex. Again, a bunch of spaces, a colon, one space, and then the password. So the command, I'm going to use an S string, so netsh. And now where the network name goes, I'm going to use the network names that were stored in the network names list, and I'm looping through that list using the variable network name from row 10. So this will be network name. And I need to add key equals clear, because else I will not see the passwords. So I will store the result in a variable. So again, I'm going to apply subprocess, the check output functionality. I'm going to apply that to command and then set shell equal to true, because again, it is a shell command. Now, I need to decode that into text because I will need that in the next step, where to get the password, I will again apply regex. So, but now instead of find all, I'm going to apply search because I don't want to end up with a list. I'm actually already looping through a list and I want to extract one password for each element, not a list for each element. So I use search. The pattern that we're applying is going to be quite similar. We'll be looking for two groups again. The first group is going to be excluded, so question mark colon. We were looking for the words key content, which had a bunch of spaces in front of it. So space, how many of those? Well, a bunch. Then key content. After key content, we had spaces again, a bunch, until we got to the colon. After that, we had one space. That needs to be a small s. We had one space, and that then took us to the actual password, and that could be any kind of character for any kind of length. So dot star. That's the pattern we'll be applying. What are we applying the pattern to? Well, it's to our current result. That's great. Now from this, I only want the second part. So of the groups, I want to take the first one. And then actually I'm going to slice off the last character because that is a hidden character. It's a /r. Right. So then I'm going to append that to my results list, or result.append. And then however you want to present the output, I'm just going to use an S string. I just want the network name, and the network name sits in that variable network name. And also here I'm going to slice off the last character, which is a hidden character. So -1, that's that. And then I'm just going to show the password, and that is, well, password. So that's what we'll be appending to the list. That wouldn't work, so we've got that. That belongs there. Right. And then we'll return that list. Okay, so then to see the output, I'm going to use my usual structure. So I'm going to loop through my results list. Now my results list is the return of that function, so I'm going to call the function. So for each element of that function, or for each element in the returned list of that function, I'm going to just print that element. Okay. So that is looping through this list here and then printing these strings for each element. Okay, so before we run that, let's make sure I've got a colon there. This is complaining about an extra row, we'll put that in there. And this is complaining about an extra row, put that in there. And the other thing to do is to put return in the correct position. It needs to be outside the for loop, of course. So if I run this, what do I get? I get my 3 networks and the 3 passwords, which I have blocked out because 2 of the 3 are still live networks and I don't want to get hacked. So that is how you extract the Wi-Fi passwords for Windows. In our next video, I will be building a very quick Kivy solution around this using a recycle view where we will create a label for each of the networks, because in my case it's 3, in your case it might be 5, 10, it might be whatever it is. So then you will have a GUI that shows the network and the password for each of the Wi-Fis. The link to that video is in the description. See you there. Thanks. Bye.